Thanks for giving us a few minutes of your time to show you something really new in bolting from Hytorc. We believe you'll agree that it was time well spent. You know Hytorc. We're the world's oldest and largest manufacturer of precision bolting tools. For every Brand X tool in the marketplace, there are 10 Hytorcs in use all over the globe. We're in hundreds of industries with thousands of applications from power generation to chemical plants to heavy equipment and oil pipelines. Every time the space shuttle flies, its booster rockets were bolted with a Hytorc. But you have your own unique bolting needs, specific to your industry and perhaps even to your plant or job. What is most important to you in your industrial bolting work? Tight joints? No leaks? Even load? There are many factors involved and all are important. At any given moment, one or two can jump to the top of your list. But all those priorities ultimately fall under three general headings: efficiency, quality, and safety. In other words, you are always looking for faster, better, and safer results. Only when you get all three do you get real productivity, and that pays for all your investment in good people and good tools. What kinds of tools do you use in your bolting work? Impact guns? Bolt heaters? Hydraulic wrenches? And how do you measure your results? Do you rely on torque? Do you measure tension or check bolt stretch? There are many kinds of tools and at least as many ways of estimating results. But again, they can be grouped together, this time in two major categories. Those based on torque, which relies on turning force to produce load in the bolt, and those based on tension, which relies on elongation or stretching the bolt to produce load. Each has its advantages and disadvantages. Torquing is fast and simple, but on the downside, by using the turning nut to load the bolt, there is always a danger of galling or damaging the thread. As a general rule, even torque will give even load on bolt after bolt around a flange. Consistency of load is often more important than how much load is applied. But knowing the exact amount of load is difficult using torque because there are so many unpredictable friction factors in play. Torque is easily measured and readily verifiable, immediately or later on. But because turning causes torsion, you have to have a way to block the tool, and usually you will need a backup wrench on the other end of the bolt to stop it from turning. Tensioning solves some of these problems. There is no turning of the nut against the bolt under load, which reduces the chance for damaging the threads. But a tensioner overstretches the bolt and then lets it snap back. Great care must be taken not to damage a stud by stretching it too far. Tensioners do a great job of giving accurate and even pull. But no matter how exactly you pull the stud, it is the nut that retains the load, and the nut is tightened by hand. Any slight difference in the angle of each nut translates into a major difference in retained load. With tensioners, you don't have to worry about a place to block a wrench, and you don't have to hold the opposite nut from turning. But the studs have to extend beyond the nut, and tensioners won't fit in tight places that you may need to reach. So which will it be, tension or torque? Each has its pros and cons, and people endlessly debate their relative advantages. But why? When Hytorc has come up with a way to give you the torsion-free accuracy of tensioning with the speed, consistency, and ease of use of torque. We have taken the best of both and left the drawbacks behind. We call it stretch to load. The secret to the system is the economical load disc. We've seen a lot of bolting ideas come and go in the last 35 years. But believe us when we say, you've got to see this, a hydraulic wrench with no reaction arm. The Hytorc load disc is a unique reaction washer that fits under a regular nut and stops the bolt from turning. Now the reaction arm on the wrench is replaced by a socket. we hold on to the washer and turn the nut. You set the load, get the load, and keep the load automatically. You don't have to change a thing except lose the reaction arm. You are still torquing your nut onto your bolt. The load disc doesn't need calibration and it doesn't change your bolting specs. Would you have to do an engineering study now if you put a hardened washer under the nut or chose a different place to react the wrench? It is just a hardened washer, and it's the reaction point right under the nut. Think about it. You probably use a washer under all your nuts now. Would it matter if that washer were hex-shaped instead of round? You probably block your wrench against another nut now. Would it matter if you blocked further away or closer in? How about blocking under the nut? That's all the load disc does. It's a washer, and we use it to block the tool from rotating. Let's take a look at stretch to load in action. Pretty cool, huh? So it's fast, it fits in tight places, it doesn't overstretch the bolts, and it's the safest bolting tool ever because it works hands-free, even upside down. But what about accuracy? Does the load disc change anything with respect to bolting specifications? It only makes things better. Recent tests conducted by Lloyd's Register, the testing arm of Lloyd's of London, and by BASF, the huge European conglomerate, put the load disc in head-to-head comparison with hydraulic tensioners to determine which would give the most consistent and repeatable load results from bolt to bolt. The results showed that the load disc was not just as good as a tensioner, it was better. The studs with the Hytorc load disc showed that actual residual load varied less than 10% around the flange. So they were not just even, they were on target. Meanwhile, the best the tensioners could do after repeated trials was only 31% of their bolts within 10% of the target load, 47% within 14% of the target, and 22% of the bolts had variations of up to 51% from the target load on the same flange, and we were done in less than half the time. So what are the advantages of stretch to load? Number one is fast, efficient torquing. One man does the job. There is no time wasted rigging a reaction point. There are no calibrations or changes needed in your bolting procedures, and setup is as easy as snapping on the dual drive socket. Second, you get reliable and verifiable load results every time. There are no side loads and little danger of damage to bolter threads. The load disc provides a consistent, low-friction surface for the nut to turn on, giving the same results bolt after bolt. And third, there has never been a safer bolting tool because it works hands-free even upside down. There are no pinch points, no wrestling with a backup wrench or finding a place to block the tool. Even the drive socket is fully enclosed, so there are no external moving parts. Combine stretch to load with multi-point torquing and you get what we call Simultaneous. All the tools advance to exactly the same load, resulting in the flange coming together parallel. Absolutely even tension on the bolts. No uneven gasket crush, and faster bolt up. Not to mention, no leaks. You may be thinking about some special requirements like, what about removing existing nuts or working with bolts that turn directly into a threaded hole? No problem. As we saw in the video, the Avanti not only can drive the load disc, but it is the most effective standard torquing tool on the market. Worried about closing a flange gap or compressing a soft gasket? No problem. For gasketed joints, we just use a slightly taller washer that allows for more compression. Narrow clearance? No problem. Anything we can do with the Avanti can also be done with the innovative Stealth line of tools. That includes both standard torque and stretch to load. Not fast enough? Watch the XXI, a hydraulic wrench that is twice as fast as even the Avanti. Still not fast enough? Watch the J-gun rock and roll. So don't put up with excuses and don't get stuck in the past. You don't have to do your industrial bolting the same way it used to be done. Torque or tensioning? Those are so 20th century. Now you can stretch to load. So tell us your priorities. Show us your bolting problems. We promise to listen and not just offer a cookie-cutter solution. We have the options. You choose what's best for you. So let's get to work. For a free, no-obligation demonstration of stretch to load and all the other options from Hytorc, please call your local Hytorc bolting consultant or reach Hytorc at 1-800-367-4986 or visit us on the web at www.hytorc.com. Thank you for your time and attention.